This week in Erie, it's time to talk taxes, and once again, the United Way of Erie is offering the free tax preparation services and so much more. And joining us to talk about the programs available is Cheryl Bates. Cheryl, we spoke to you on Jet TV recently about the free tax program. If you could quickly, we ran out of time on that show, so there were so many more things we wanted to discuss. So if you could first, though, give our viewers a brief overview of the free tax program offered by United Way.
Sure. United Way has been offering Erie free taxes since 2010. The program's been in our area since 2008. We provide free tax preparation to eligible tax filers. And eligibility is essentially governed by how much income they've had for any particular year. Mm-hmm. So for this 2019 tax filing season occurring now, we can do and will do tax returns, federal, state, and local, for filers with incomes of around $56,000.
And you're also offering a link on your website as well, so people can go and do the taxes themselves for essentially free or no cost, correct?
Yes, yes. And that link is called My Free Taxes. Mm-hmm. That's been around for a number of years as well.
And there's no income limit on that, correct?
This is the first year where there hasn't been an income limit. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, yes. Last year and the year before, I think it was around 66,000. Mm-hmm. So it's still cast a wider net than the face-to-face tax preparation that our program does. By $10,000, but now that ceiling's been removed, and essentially, if you want to do your federal and state returns, it doesn't matter what your income is.
Now, when it comes to filing taxes, you wanted to speak more about the Earned Income Tax Credit. Can you speak to that?
The Earned Income Tax Credit is a cash credit, and it has been available in this country since 1975. Mm-hmm. And it has received wide bipartisan support, believe it or not, even now.
Wow.
Excuse me. Because it is so successful and effective in reducing poverty. This year, for example, a family of, let's say, a mom, dad, and 3 children, depending on what their income is, if they're on the lower end of the wage ladder, they may be eligible for the Earned Income Tax Credit, which would allow them to essentially receive a 30% salary increase. The most that can be received is about $5,600.
Substantial, though.
It's very substantial, especially for the low-income families.
Who is eligible?
Well, anyone who has worked. Mm-hmm. That's why it's called the Earned Income Tax Credit. So anyone that has worked in 2019 specifically, because that's the tax year that we're speaking about, or had worked. So they don't have to be currently working. As long as they worked some period of time, even a day, in 2019, they may be eligible for the Earned Income Tax Credit. If you're an individual, no children, and you have had lower wage earnings, you may be eligible for about $529. As your family grows, you have more children, but it does plateau. But it still speaks to being a tax credit, a cash refund that can move people and does move people out of poverty. Mm-hmm. So for the 2018 tax year, more than 8 million people moved out of poverty because of the Earned Income Tax Credit.
Because of that bump. And I mean, we know people who do their taxes every year. How would someone who's doing their taxes, or if they go and have them done, how do tax filers access that credit?
They have to file a tax return. And a lot of people that are eligible for this credit don't take advantage of it for a variety of reasons. Some of them just still are not aware of it. Some of our filers or potential filers speak a different language, come from a culture that isn't as sensitive and aware of tax credits. And a fair number of people think, well, I don't earn enough to file a return, so I guess I'm out of luck. That's not the case. I think for an individual, you have to file a tax return, a federal tax return. The income has to be about $12,200. So anybody under that will likely be under the misconception that they're not eligible for the Earned Income Tax Credit. You just file a federal return. That's the vehicle that has been set up to allow these working families to access this credit.
And that's something too where the free taxes comes in extremely handy, because if someone doesn't know or they don't think they're eligible, they can come in and make that appointment and see whether or not. And like you said, it's a valuable answer to a question for some.
It is, and that's really, our eyes are on every individual that comes through the door in terms of whether they're eligible for this credit or not, because it's a huge infusion of cash at one time. And the majority of people that receive this credit spend it in the community. They put it towards short and midterm goals or needs, paying down debt, making house repairs, buying clothes for the children, maybe fixing the car that becomes now more reliable, getting them to work with more predictability and more reliability. So it's incredibly valuable for these individual families. It really is a family economic development tool.
So tell me too, how do the filers then, you just said how they benefit from the credit. Would that be what you just spoke to then? Just the fact that it helps them maybe get ahead that month and pay off some bills?
Yes.
And just helps them into the new year?
Yes.
Let's talk to how do businesses benefit from the credit? Is that just the spending in the community?
That's spending in the community.
Right.
You know, there's a
So it
ripple
helps
effect.
the local economy.
It absolutely helps, and it is considered a economic development tool. Just to give you an example, in Erie County for 2018, about $57 million in earned income tax credit dollars went into the pockets of Erie County filers. Now, that money, because it is spent in the local community for the most part, on goods and services, there's that trickle-down effect. So it impacts businesses and their employees, and it just it creates new financial activity, new growth, new development. So it's not only a family economic development tool, it does benefit the community at large.
So Cheryl, let's say in closing then, again, how can people get information? Like you said, if they think they aren't supposed to file a tax return or they don't know about this earned income tax credit, what should they do?
Well, the people that are in key positions to know about this credit are the volunteer preparers through a VITA program, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, VITA, which is what we are, and paid preparers. And that also means the for-profit businesses should be aware of this. We're an option to the for-profit businesses because their fees are high, and many of our families really can't afford to pay the fees and the charges. So, but the professionals are the ones that really have a lock on knowing that this credit is available. So that and word of mouth. The more people that use the service, the VITA service, our service, the more people they can share what they have learned, what their experience was.
And where do they go for that information?
Well, they can go to our website, unitedwayerie.org/Erie Free Taxes. We have thousands of outreach brochures that are being distributed in the community, listening to your segment and reading in the media. So there are a few venues that people can tap into to get this information.
Cheryl, thank you so much as always. Great information, and hopefully we've made some people aware of something they didn't know about before.
I'm sure.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on This Week in Erie.